when you try to find the partial derivative of f with respect to x, then you assume that y is a constant. That means cosine of y looks like a constant. So if I differentiate it with respect to x, I simply get 1 times cosine of y for the first term. But the second term, you get e to the 2xy. The derivative will be negative e to the 2xy. But according to chain rule, you need to multiply this by the derivative of the numerator. And with respect to x, that will be 2y. Okay, going on, you can actually further differentiate this with respect to y and get things like fxy. So you think of this as a function of two variables and then try to differentiate with respect to y. Differentiating cosine y with respect to y is negative sine y. Now this one has to be considered as a product of two functions. So you need a product rule to do that question. If I first differentiate 2y, I get negative 2. And I keep the other term. The next time around, I must keep my negative 2y and differentiate e to the 2xy with respect to y. That will give you 2x e to the 2xy. And then you can go on with this by finding fxx. And then if you differentiate with respect to y, you get fy. And then from here, you can find out fyx and also fyy. Now I'm going to show you how to do a question like typical question like number 2. This requires a lot of completing the square. First, I group all the x's together. And then group all the y's together. And put the constant on the right side. The constant I already put on the right side. So now we take out the common factor of the x. Take out the common factor of the y's. And ask ourselves, what must you add so that you get a complete square? In this case, you must add half of this thing square. Half of that thing is a half, negative a half. And so when you square it, you get positive a quarter. In this case, you must add half of that thing square. Half of that is 1, and so when you square, you get 1. But when you do that, you don't really add a half. You actually add a 12 times a quarter. 12 at a quarter is actually a 3, so to compensate, you add a 3 on the right side. On this side, you don't really add a 1, you add 20 of 1. So on the right side, you need to add a 20. So this is really a square of x minus a half square, and that's really a square of y plus a 1 square. And on the right hand side, you can see it's 40 plus 20, and that's a 60. So you have to manipulate this further so that it becomes this. And the way to achieve it is to divide 60 on both sides. Once you're able to write it in standard form, you should be able to list out the center, the vertices, the foci, and the eccentricities. And you should be able to recognize that this is either an ellipse, a parabola, or a hyperbola.